Om Soham Tatwamasi. Father, we are that which you are. Jai Bhagavanji. Victory to that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.
Jai Bhagavanji.
Many people tune into this sanctuary service. There's a saying that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. We get death threats. We get hate mail from people claiming to be Christians. See, I don't think we can get hate mail from Christians.
No.
The Prince of Peace and the man of love cannot be inspiring these people to send us vile, hateful, degrading, vicious emails. In the Christian religion, they say that you should look for the devil. Now, we don't accept their concept of the devil, but in the Christian religion it says you should look for the devil where you least expect him. I suggest that you, who are warming up your fingertips to write these vile and evil emails, should look behind your eyes and in your heart for the devil that you claim to oppose so much. I don't believe that Jesus ever said anything awful about anybody in his life. I don't believe that he said, don't be like the scribes and the Pharisees, but he didn't say, these are terrible people, these are evil people, they should be taken out and shot like the people who send these emails to us. He didn't do that. He just said, don't be like them. Don't be like them. And so, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And you who are watching, unless you are a Maitreyan, and sometimes even if you're a Maitreyan, are suffering from a little knowledge. If you really want to get down on us, you've got to get this book. It's called the Holy Book of Destiny. The Holy Book of Destiny. See, it says on the back, it says, Maitreya, the friend of all souls. See, that's me. That's my picture there, right? Why am I called the friend of all souls? You'll find out if you read the book. But you have to read the book. Now, you don't have to read the book to be a Maitreyan, to be honest with you. Because being a Maitreyan goes beyond bookish pursuits. Being a Maitreyan is a thing of the heart and of the spirit, and only just a little bit of this thing that people are so proud of in our culture, especially the secular humanists. They're so proud of their intellect. So proud of their intellect. I read a study that came out of, I think it was Washington or some very liberal state, maybe Oregon, I don't know, some welfare state, that said that it proves that conservatives are intellectually impaired. They have lower IQs than liberals. See, that's what's wrong with us, is we have lower IQs. Yep, lower IQs. Well, I want to see who did the study. One of the reasons we seem to have lower IQs is because we don't lie. And we don't fabricate studies that have no substance. And we try to live lives of honor, integrity, principle, and truth. Now, maybe that's not intellectual to you. If you're a liberal, or if you're a secular humanist who believes that all of this creation happened by accident. It's just a big accident. Just someone, pooh, called the Big Bang. That was it. Ah, there you go. The trees, you know, the interior of the human body, the venous system, the lymphatic system. Oh, I used those intellectual terms, didn't I? Oh, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to disappoint you. All of this intricate system that we live in, this universe of multiple stars and planets and black holes in space. Oh, it's just a big accident. and you claim that you are superior intellects. Well, you know, if that's a superior intellect, then God spare me from one. That's the biggest bunch of idiocy that anybody ever came up with. You see, secular humanists are also fond, and communists and the like, the ilk, that whole ilk that's so intellectually superior, are so fond of also being atheists. Now, I can understand an agnostic. I can understand somebody that says, you know, my mind's kind of puny and I really don't comprehend the entire realm of creation, and so I don't know if there's a God or not. I can understand that. But to come out and say, there is no God, well, let's think this through. Since you're so into being an intellectual, let's do a little intellectual exercise on this. We're sitting in a room. Well, let's just take what you see here. Do you see a giraffe here?
No.
So you can legitimately say there's no giraffe in this shrine. Can you see the back of the room?
No.
This room is 2 stories high. Can you say there's no giraffe in the back of the room?
No.
Why can't you say there's no giraffe in the back of the room? Because you can't see the back of the room. That's why.
That's good.
Now, suppose I say there are no cats in this building. Now, this building is comprised of about, 10 or 15 different offices and a coffee house and things like that. Would you take me seriously if I said, there's no cats in this building? You'd say, how do you know? How do you know that there's not one in the coffee shop? How do you know there's not one in the building, the business upstairs? How do you know there's not one that snuck into the empty building that's beside this building? And I'd say, well, I don't. But I don't see them, so they must not exist.
Oh, wow.
Now, let's take it a step further. Suppose I went through the whole building. Suppose I could. Now, you can't do this, liberal. You can't do this, atheist. You can't do this, communist. You can't do this, secular humanist. But let's suppose, for the sake of argument, that I said, I'm going to go through this whole building and prove conclusively that there's no cats in this building.
You can't.
Okay? So, I start with this room. I go all the way through. Oh, look, there's no cat in here. Well, no cat. And so I go next door. And I look all through next door. I go upstairs. There's 5 offices upstairs. I go through every office. I look in every drawer. Make sure there's not a cat in the drawer. Look under the desks. Look around. And then I come downstairs and I go up front. There's 2 stores up front. One's a coffee house. So I go through the coffee house and then I come back here and I say, there are no cats in this building. How do you know that a cat didn't walk into the next door building while I was down there? How do you know that a cat didn't come into the upstairs building while I was down here? The fact of the matter is that you don't and you can't. There's only one way I could know that for sure. And that is if I could be in every building in this, every office in this building, every store in this building, at the same time, and in every place in the building. I mean, we have a closet back here. I don't know. Did a cat slip into that closet while I was busy going to the coffee shop? Coffee house? I don't know that. So I have to be in every single part of this building at the same time, from top to bottom, and under every cupboard. I have to be in every closet. I have to be behind every... What about this? There's a table back here. I suppose it's got a cloth on it. I didn't look under there. Oh, there could be a cat under there. So I'd have to be everywhere in this building at exactly the same time. Now, we could work together, couldn't we? I could take some of you and say, okay, you go to office A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all of you look around and then shut the door to make sure no cat gets in. And we might kind of approximate some verity. Oh, that's an intellectual word, I'm sorry. Some truth about the fact that there's no cat in the building. We might. Providing we have looked in every single place and we haven't missed anything. Now you see how difficult it is to prove there's not a cat in this building? Well, now, here's the problem, you see. The universe of creation is a really, really big place. Woo! We call it infinite. I mean, if it isn't infinite, it's really a whopping big place. I mean, the Earth, compared to the universe of creation, is smaller than an electron is to the universe of creation. We don't exist practically. So now, in order to prove that there's no God, what I have to do is I have to be everywhere in the known universe, from wall to wall, top to bottom, inside to outside, at the same exact time, and I have to know everything that's going on in the universe at exactly the same time. And the problem is that makes me God. Because that's the definition of God. Omniscient, omnipresent. So the atheist, the communist, the secular humanist may be the most intellectual people on the planet, but they're a bunch of idiots when it comes to factual things. You can't prove there's no God. And you may say, well, prove that there is. Well, I can't really do that either. But I don't claim that you are, that there's no possibility. Maybe it is a big accident. If it is a big accident, it's still more fun, has more organization, has more meaning if you believe in God. But as human beings, we look around and we go, well, over here's a laptop computer. Now maybe you can take a laptop computer apart and know every part that's in there and know how it works and put it all back together and make it work. If I took that laptop apart, it would be a piece of junk. Oh, that's because I'm an idiot conservative, right? Because I don't have the intellect, right? No, it's because I don't know computers, right? So, as far as this being an accident, look at the intricacy of just the human body. Just the human body. Now some people say, well, it's survival of the fittest. What happens is one animal walks off a cliff and dies, and so that's why animals know that they shouldn't walk off cliffs, right? See, there's a little problem with that. The animal that walked off the cliff and has the gene that tells him that you're not supposed to walk off a cliff is dead. He doesn't get to procreate. And if he doesn't get to procreate, then how on earth, or anywhere else, does the gene from the animal that walked off the cliff get into the body of the animals that didn't walk off the cliff? Ooh, now we're into spirituality somehow. It's not a far-fetched notion. There's a thing called the 100th monkey effect. And I don't have all of the names of the islands and all of that, so, that's because I'm impaired and conservative, I guess. So maybe some of you enlightened liberals can tell me. But anyway, many years ago, there was a pristine island that was basically untouched. Human beings hadn't really been there. It was untouched. It had monkeys on it. See? And there was another island that had monkeys on it. They were separated by enough water that no monkey's going to swim that far. Now what they did is they began to teach the monkeys on the one island how to wash food. Instead of just gulping it down. They'd take them down and show them how to wash food. And they picked it up. Monkey see, monkey do. So, they're out down there washing food. Now remember, this other island over here has been untouched. It's basically pristine. Maybe somebody was there like 10,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, but fundamentally it's untouched. So these monkeys are learning to wash food. All of a sudden the monkeys on the other island started washing their food. It's called the 100th monkey effect. When the 100th monkey learned to wash food, the monkeys on the other island started doing the same thing. Now, is that an accident?
No.
After 10,000 years, they just decided, hey, guys, let's wash some food. No, it's not an accident. See, these things are not accidental. The people who want them to be accidental are accidents. They're accidents because they can't see what's right in front of their face, which is an intellectual and moral order of the universe. Now, I don't mean morals like you shouldn't have sex, or if you're gay you couldn't get married. I don't mean that stuff. I mean a moral order, an intelligent order to the universe. Our bodies. How did we develop the eye? Well, the Hindus knew a long time ago. In the Upanishads, they said the spirit wanted to see. Spirit wanted to see, and so the eye was born. One of these days, Spirit's going to want to blow the conch, and it's going to get blown right. I'm just jiving her here. But the Spirit wanted to see, and so the eye was born. Spirit wanted to move about on the land, and so the legs were born. Now, are we talking about evolution? You bet we are. There's no doubt about evolution. Now, as far as one species crossing over into another, there's no real hardcore evidence that that ever happened. But as far as species evolving within their own sphere, there's no doubt about evolution. And there's no doubt that something that lived in the sea may have learned to walk on the land. See, I don't care about that. God created evolution. God created this universe in its fundamental and essential form, gave it a spin and said, evolve. Evolve! So in this, I disagree with the Christian that says God created everything just as it is. If He created everything just as it is, how come it wasn't like it is now? But I also disagree with the secular humanist that says, no, it's just an accident and evolution took care of it and the survival of the fittest and blah, 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 blah. They're both wrong. God created evolution and told us to evolve. But we're still working on it. We're not doing very good. One of the reasons we're not doing very good is because a philosophy that says that everything's an accident is not a very intelligent philosophy. Maybe your study was done by somebody that really wasn't that, maybe they're just one can short of a six-pack. Besides, it's not who's the most intellectual. Nobody could make an IQ test that would measure Albert Einstein's IQ. Because in order to measure Einstein's IQ, you would have to have been smarter than Einstein. And there wasn't anybody around that could do that. So, the hell with your study. And as far as this world being an accident, I think if you believe that, I think that you may well be the accident yourself. And you ought to look at that. You ought to look at that. Now, I'm not talking about God the way the Christian defines God. I'm not talking about God the way the Muslim defines God, or the Jew defines God, or the Hindu defines God. Hindu comes pretty close, but not quite. I'm talking about God, the undefinable, the unspeakable. In our scroll here, in our doctrine, I say, God is the one greatest mystery. Mind cannot grasp Him. Only Spirit can know Him. And how can Spirit know Him? Well, in the first place, mind is too small. Can you grasp, I don't know, the entire solar system and everything within it? You can't even grasp this entire building and everything within it. You don't even know if there's a cat upstairs. So mind is too small to grasp God. So how can Spirit know God? Spirit can know God because that is what you are inside, beyond the body, the brain, and the mind itself. You are Spirit. I have a nice lady over here who can't blow the conch. And she's looking at a laptop computer, and on that laptop computer, I presume, I don't know because I can't see. See, I'm intelligent enough to know that I don't know what's on the screen. I presume I'm on the screen, and she's looking at me on the screen. Now, you think of me as being the external world. You think of that camera as being your eyes. You think of the computer processor as being your brain, and you think of the screen as being your mind. So she is the spirit that's looking at the screen. And you are the spirit that's looking at the screen of your mind. Everything you see in your mind. Everything you see is in your mind. Everything. Everything. When you see another person, where is that person? Well, that person may be, now here we get into some heavy intellectual territory, don't we? That person may be outside of you. But we don't know that for sure, do we? One thing we know for sure is that the person is in your mind. Whatever you see in your mind. Take out the mind, you don't see anything. It's called being knocked out, anesthetized, and so on and so forth. So once the mind is taken out of the circuit, it would be like her CRT, her screen here on her laptop computer going dark, going blank. Ah, she can't see me anymore on her screen. Yet I'm still here. So everything we know, everything we see in our minds. Now it may be out there. It probably is not out there the way we see it. There's a thing called the electromagnetic spectrum. Oh, I'm sorry. I really don't mean to go into this territory. There's a thing called the electromagnetic spectrum. It runs from ultraviolet to infrared. It actually runs far beyond that, but that's the visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And we see a little tiny portion of that electromagnetic spectrum. That's what we see. If you could really see me, if your eyes were capable of seeing me in the infrared portion of the spectrum, what you would see, infrared means heat. What you'd see is a big fuzzy thing with a kind of a concentrated center. But I wouldn't look like I look now. Because you'd be seeing more than you see now. Your eyes are selective. Your brain is selective. Your mind is selective. Because that's how we survive. Now, how did we develop that? By, survival of the fittest? Impossible. Impossible. We didn't. The fact of the matter is that only an idiot would assume that we did. Are you calling me an idiot? No, I'm just telling you what the definition of an idiot is. If you want to be one, fit the definition. It's not an accident, pal. It's not an accident, friends. That we can select out of this entire electromagnetic spectrum a little part that enables us to function in this world. Build buildings, build spaceships that go to other planets and all this other stuff. See, if we could see it all, it would be completely different. So what we're seeing in our minds. Now, a lot of people think that Buddha, it always amazes me how liberals and leftists and secular humanists really like Buddha. Like, oh, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Buddhist. Buddha never said there was no God. Buddha never denied God. Basically what Buddha said is until you can control your mind, how are you going to know God? You can't even control your mind for 1 minute. How about you super intellectual leftists and secular humanists out there? I want you to clear your mind of all thoughts and keep it that way for 2 minutes. I'm not going to wait for you to do it because you're not going to be able to do it. It takes years of concentrated study and practice to be able to do that. And when you do that, you see the world in a whole different way. When you do that, you understand the two Zen guys that are standing on a bridge, and the master is talking to the student, and he says, which is moving, the water or the bridge? Okay, which is moving, the water or the bridge? Which is moving, the water or the bridge? The student who has graduated says, neither the water nor the bridge is moving, mind is moving. So you see this idea of the universe being an accident. This idea of there being no God. Now, I will tend to agree with you if you say that God isn't what people say God is. If the mind can't grasp God, the mouth can't define God. But that doesn't mean it's useless. Because you are at your innermost center, just like she's looking at the screen of the computer. The CPU in the computer is like the brain, the screen is like the mind, and she's like the spirit. She's looking at it. You are looking at the CPU, well, your CPU, your brain, is generating things. Your mind is extrapolating them. Oh gosh, there goes another one of those multisyllabical words. Extrapolating information from the brain and putting it together in pictures that it shows you in your mind. And you are the spirit that's looking at all of this. When the mind's knocked out, you say, I'm unconscious. I don't know what happened. They gave me a shot, and the next thing I knew, I woke up 4 hours later and I had, my appendix was removed or something like that. See? It's not that it didn't happen to you. It's not that the brain didn't record it. And through techniques that my mentor and I, Henry D. Fraser, a consummate engineer, electronic engineer, and I developed, you can go back and recover those memories from the brain and review them in the mind, no matter how deep the anesthesia is, unless you're dead. And even if you're dead, probably, because the brain still records for a while after you die. So you can do that. So those impulses, those what we would call samskaras, that's an ancient Hindu word, a Sanskrit word that means a mental trace. Those traces are still in the brain, but the mind has been knocked out of the circuit.
Wow.
That's why you, as spirit, don't feel the pain of having your abdomen cut open and have your appendix taken out. But you can recover those memories. You can recover those impulses and regenerate them into memories that show up on the screen of your mind. Now, doctors hate this.
Oh.
They have some new drug called, what's it?
Versed.
Huh? Versed. And they love Versed because what it is a forgetter drug. It blocks the ability to recall what happened to you while all of this was happening. And I said, I don't want that, because I want to go back through this when I'm done with it. I want to go back through this and clean it up so that I'm living a conscious life. And that's what Maitreans need to do, is live a conscious life. So you have to realize that you are pure, divine, universal spirit, which is one and identical, not separate, one and identical, with the one universal spirit within which all of this creation is encompassed and that created all of this creation. And within whom this creation exists no larger than one single grain of sand in the entire Sahara Desert. That's who you are. That's what you are. Why are you called soul? Soul is pure divine universal spirit that is operating in an environment of forgetfulness of who it is, of what it is. And because we are soul, we are trapped in these bodies for the time of our life. And because we're trapped in these bodies, there is suffering, there is sorrow, there's fear, there's pain, there's sickness, there's old age, there's death, and guess what, guys? There's rebirth. Well, I don't believe in rebirth. You might as well go out and say, I don't believe in gravity. Bully for you. Try stepping off the roof up here. It's 3 stories high. You want to try that? No. Do you want to try that? No. Why don't you want to try that? You say gravity doesn't exist. Why don't you want to step off the roof? Well, because I might fall. But you said gravity doesn't exist. So you don't have to know all about God to say, I ain't stepping off the edge of the roof, do you? All you have to know is that it makes sense that this is not an accident. It makes sense that we come back time after time after time. How do we know that we come back time after time? However, what's your proof? Well, you see, trying to prove something that's contrary to doctrine, whether it's atheistic doctrine, communist doctrine, or any other doctrine, religious doctrine, is a waste of time. As my grandfather would say, it's like trying to teach a pig to sing. All it does is frustrate the pig and waste your time. There's plenty of proof. Many, many years ago, there was a little girl by the name of Shanti Devi. I actually wrote to her before she passed away. And what happened was at like 6 years old, she began talking about wanting her children. She wanted her children. And they said, yeah, you know, something's wrong. And fortunately, she was in India, and they had some local guru that said, well, you know, yeah, it sounds kind of goofy, but maybe there's something to it. And they said, do you know where your children were? Do you know where your children are? She said, well, I don't know where they are, but I know where they were. So they took this little girl and they drove or walked or did something around this village. And all of a sudden, she said, there, that's the house that I lived in. Kids make up this crap all the time. So they stopped at the house. They went inside the house. It was boarded up, apparently, as I understand the story. And they went in and they said, well, how are you going to prove that this is where your house was? How are you going to prove that these were your children? She was actually trying to get custody of these children. Now, she's probably older than 6. I said 6. Probably she was like 9 or 10. I don't know exactly. It's irrelevant to the story. So she said, let me walk around. So she walked around and she went into the bedroom and she found a place where the board was under a rug, where the board was loose. She picked it up and inside was a box and she opened it and she said, these are my children. Her evidence was so overwhelming that the Indian courts gave her tentative or partial custody of her children. Where's your proof that there is no reincarnation? How are you going to prove that there is no reincarnation? Trying to prove that there's no reincarnation is like proving there's no God. In order to prove it, you'd have to die and come back here and go, nope, there's no reincarnation. Whoa, what am I doing here? Oh my God, I'm back. You see? You refute your own argument. Just you people who believe that there's only one lifetime and then there's heaven or hell, refute your argument the same way the atheist refutes his own argument. In order to know that there's no God in this creation, you'd have to be everywhere at the same time and know everything at the same time, and that would make you God. So there would be God. So I don't go by the Christian definition of God or the Jewish definition of God or the Muslim definition of God or even the basic Hindu definitions of God. God is. That's all we can say. We can know Him because we are what He is. At the beginning of this I said, Om Soham Tatvamasi. What that means is you and I are what God is. And if you're talking to God, it means, Father, I am that which you are. And then we say Jai Bhagavanji, which means victory to that beloved universal I am that I am which you are. Ah, see, there you go. You're trying to set yourself up as God, saying that I am stuff. Well, I'm not the first one that said it. I'm not the one that originated it. As the story goes, when Moses went up onto the mountain and he came across the burning bush, this bush was burning away, but it wasn't being consumed by the flames. And God spoke to him out of this burning bush. Now, that's not the same kind of burning bush that you liberals are smoking. There's a different kind of burning bush. God spoke to him out of this burning bush. And after he kind of had a little conflab there, he had a little discussion with God, he said, you're telling me to go back down to the mountain and tell these hardcore Israelites that I got some information from a burning bush, right? God said, yeah. And he said, well, who am I going to say sent me? And God said, I am that I am. Tell them I am that I am sent you. So you see, I didn't originate that. That's what God called Himself. I am that I am. So if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for me. And if you really want to take God to task, you got to deal with him and Moses and the bush and all that kind of stuff. So here we are in a situation. You see, if everything is an accident, my dear communist fellows, then what do you need communism for? It's all going to be an accident. There's no point in having a communist government. Well, we know that. Every place on earth that has been tried has been a disaster. The only thing communism has done for the world is kill 150-some million people trying to establish itself and prove that it's a viable system. It isn't a viable system. And why isn't it viable? It's not viable because God is the essence of freedom. What could be more free than God, who could create this entire creation out of his own self-substance and being, and yet exceed it so greatly that this entire creation is no bigger than a grain of sand in the Sahara Desert? What's freer than that? That is the definition of freedom. See, if there's two, they ain't free. Because this one's going to try to tell that one what to do. That one's going to try to tell this one what to do. But God's one. And he is the absolute definition of freedom. And you are that. You are one with him at your innermost center. Now don't walk around going, Maitreya said that I'm God. Well, you know, no, that just means you're a big ego with legs. You at your innermost center, that consciousness, that spark of life that animates the body and knows things, is one with God. Not only one with God, but one and the same. One and identical. And so your job here, your task here, is to realize that. It's called self-realization. Now, please don't look in the local LA papers. I won't mention any, but you know, the ones that have all the porno stuff in the back. Don't look in those. Don't look in the little catalogs that have all of the bogus little so-called spiritual touchy-feely things going on in LA, because you're not going to find it there. That's not where you're going to find it. You're going to find it in your heart. But why is it as it is? Why isn't it an accident? Because God has given us his nature, which is absolute freedom. Absolute freedom. Up to and including the fact that you can end your own life. Now, if you were in an accident, you couldn't do that. You'd miss and hit the guy next to you. Well, a lot of people do that, I guess. Seems. But freedom. Now, in the human being, see, if you think of this body as being God and this arm being the extension of a person into this world, in the human being, that freedom is manifested as free will, free choice, self-determinism, individual freedom, not collective freedom, individual freedom, and absolute, inescapable personal responsibility for everything that you do with these four. And everything that you choose not to do with these four. Freedom. And because we're free, we can do all kinds of things. Any system that tries to contract that freedom. You notice, this is freedom. What's the communist system? It's this. You notice that these are all contracted?
Yes.
They're all constrained. They're all oppressed. This is freedom. That's the communist sign. That's the secular humanist sign. This is the Maitreyan sign. You notice how they contract them? You notice how they're suppressed? They're oppressed. Like this. That's free. And so, any system, I don't care what it is, whether it's the Democrats, the Republicans, the autocrats, the bureaucrats, or any other kind of crats, that seeks to contract these freedoms and suppress them, is a bad deal. It is only because of this open hand, it is only because of these freedoms that we have created all of the inventions, all of the medicines, and all of the bad things that we've created along with it in the last 200 years, or 300 years maximum. Now, humanity's been around for around 1 billion years. So, if this is 1 billion years, here's how long we've been around. See that? Probably can't see it. Let me come up here. All right. See that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how long we've been around. This is how long humanity's been around. And yet, in the last 200 or 300 years, we have created most of the world's inventions. We have revolutionized the world. We have electricity we can see by at night. We have automobiles that travel faster than human beings ever thought possible. And mostly safely. We have created all these things because of this, not because of this. What happened to Russia after the Soviet Revolution? They took all of this and they contracted it into this, and it died. Because this doesn't work. This works. Freedom works. Bureaucratic planning, state planning, and enslavement doesn't work. So, as Maitreyans, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for this time. I'm just going to tell you this. You vote for the person that will stand most fast and strongest for your freedom.
Die.
Now, there's always going to be failings. You know, we've got one guy, he's Rick Santorum. I like the guy. He speaks well. I like Newt Gingrich myself, because he's kind of a full-handed rebel. That's why the Republican elite establishment don't like him.
Yeah.
Can't be controlled. We have a person sitting in the audience here that got fired from a job, and they were saying, cannot be controlled. God bless you, you're a Maitreya. Good thing I'm not trying to control you. So, this guy Santorum, he doesn't believe that people should be able to have birth control. Yeah, you know, that's a preference, but your preference, not everybody's preference. And if you're a Catholic and you believe in the Catholic Church and you really are a hardcore Catholic, you won't use birth control. And good for you. That shows fidelity. It shows honor. It shows integrity if you're a Catholic. But if you're not a Catholic, you shouldn't be denied birth control. Catholics should not have birth control imposed upon them, but non-Catholics shouldn't have birth control taken away from them. Freedom. The freedom to decide, I will or I won't. And be absolutely 100% responsible for what you decide and what you do. That is the Maitreyan way. A little chaotic. A little bit chaotic. But good in the long run. Because it gives us room to adapt, to innovate, to improvise, to use initiative. Now we're going through a major paradigm shift. For years I was instructed by God to only find those people who were absolutely right for this work, who were absolutely dedicated to this work, who would be completely, you know, not cult members, but who would be completely devoted. And that didn't work out that well. There's not that many people in this time and place, in this Kali Yuga, in this age of darkness. But God has given me a new guidance. And this guidance is a paradigm shift. Now, what's a paradigm? A paradigm means the underlying concept that gives rise to everything else. Some people call it a gestalt. You liberals will like that. It's gestalt, you know, gestalt. But it's really the underlying concept. So now if you change anything in the underlying concept, everything else changes, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You know? But God has instructed me, and I argued with him a lot about this. I argue with God a lot. I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I do. Because I'm a human being, and I have freedom, I can argue with God. He's always going to win. He never loses. Very frustrating. Don't play chess with him, okay? But you still have to argue with him. If you got any spine at all, you have to argue with him. Moses argued with him. Martin Luther argued with him. I argue with him, and I always lose. But somehow, arguing with him makes it worth losing. And we argued about this a bit. But he has told me we need a paradigm shift. And what we're going to do, the paradigm shift that we're going to do is, instead of reserving, see, this is kind of partly closed-handed. Instead of reserving holy initiation and God's new covenant and supreme promise to a very few people who already have all of the characteristics and all of the possibilities and all of the strengths and none of the weaknesses that are necessary to form a core group of Maitreans to explode this gift that God has given us all over the world. God said, follow the way of nature. Well, what's the way of nature? A tree, these palm trees or other trees, you know, at a certain time of the year, they send their seeds out to proliferate their kind. Now, we got a parking lot out here. If these trees send their seeds out, some of those seeds are going to fall in the parking lot, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not going to grow. Some of those seeds are going to fall on a place where they're going to be swept up by the guy over here at the restaurant. And they're not going to grow. Some of those seeds are going to fall on ground that's really crappy and never gets watered, and they're not going to grow. But some of those seeds will fall on good ground, and they will be watered, and they will take root, and they will grow.
Yeah.
And so this is the paradigm shift that God has asked me, not told me, but asked me to make. And he out-argued me by far. Listen, not even a contest. And so the paradigm shift that we are going to make is that I instruct you, I ask you, I direct you, if you will accept the direction and the instruction, to go out into this world and give my holy initiation and God's new covenant and supreme promise to every single person who will accept it and have it of his or her own free will. Now, you can't use force, threat, coercion, intimidation, bribery, violence, or deception. Those 7 deadly sins are forbidden. You can't use those things to make or compel anybody to accept this gift that I have won for you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Check out some of the other things. Read the Holy Book of Destiny. You'll understand. So you can't use those 7 things. But short of that, go out and offer it to everyone. You may look at the person and go, "Wow, this guy, him and his shopping cart, he's never going to be able to do anything for us." I don't care, give it to him. Give it to him. But at the same time, make sure that he understands what he's getting. And at the same time, make sure that he understands that he is responsible for what he does with it. He is responsible for wasting it, or he's responsible for developing it. You see, by natural, the liberals will love this. It's called natural selection. Now, in order to come and be part of this community, there are qualifications. There are some regulations. There are some rules that you have to follow. But see, that's like a screen. It's like a filter through which people have to pass in order to become part of this holy community, this Sangha. But they select themselves now. You don't select them anymore. And those who are able to select themselves will be Maitreans. They will be part of this community. They will be part of this Sangha. They may even be part of the leadership of this Sangha eventually. And those who can't will still have God's new covenant and supreme promise in their heart as they go out and wander through the wilderness of this world. This is the paradigm shift that we are undertaking. It's a very important shift. It changes everything. It's a game changer, as they call it. It's a game changer. So it means that you're not to go out and look at a person and go, well, I think this person would be a good Maitreyan, so I'm going to approach this. No, you approach everybody. I don't care who it is. You walk up and you go, would you like it? You know, here, let me get it. Let me get it right here. Oh, let me get it. This is God's new covenant. And I go up to you and I say, do you want it? No. Do you want it? No. Do you want it? Yes, I can talk to you. So come and get it. I'm not worried about the people who don't take it. Don't worry over the people who say no. Don't worry over the people who call you cult members and all that garbage. What are we, a cult of freedom?
Right. Yeah.
If we're a cult of freedom, then hope to God that we prevail in the world.
God.
Because this is no good. This is no good. So this is the paradigm shift that we're undergoing. It's going to be a tough one for you. Because when you see somebody, you're going to start calculating, well, has this person got the right qualifications? We don't know what the right qualifications are. I, most of the time, don't even know what the right qualifications are. God knows. The right qualifications for a person to become a Maitreyan is the spine, the determination, the motivation to make himself or herself into a Maitreyan. Anybody who will do that deserves to be part of this Sangha, deserves to be part of this community, deserves to be part of this holy cause, mission and purpose in the world, this movement. And I don't care how pristine or perfect somebody looks, if they aren't willing to make themselves into a Maitreyan, why would you want them in your community anyway? We've already tried that for 30 years. It's been a dismal failure. It's been a dismal failure. And some people will say, well, okay, now what am I going to do? As soon as I initiate somebody, I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have to do that, and I have to do that. I have to give them a holy book of destiny and send them away with it and tell them to read it. Forget it! Don't do anything. Do nothing. Do nothing. Let's face it, if somebody comes up to you, I don't have anything handy, but if somebody comes up to you and goes, look, this thing's worth $100 million or $100,000, all you have to do is take it to the redeeming station and you'll get $100,000. Here you go. There you go. And I go around and I pass out 2,000 of these things. Most people are going to look at it and go, yeah, right, sure. Throw it over their shoulder and forget it. Some people are going to stick it in their pocket and they'll forget it. Other people are going to put it on their dresser at home and they'll be reminded from time to time and say, I really should do that, but I'm too busy and it's probably bogus anyway. Some people will take this little thing and go down, sir, I'd like to redeem this, and the guy shows $100,000 across the table. That's the person we want.
Wow.
That's the person we need. That's the person that deserves to be a Maitreyan. So you don't have to tell them anything. You don't have to tell them what's in the Book of Destiny. I do want you to tell them what it means to receive it. And I do want you to tell them what you're going to do. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to kick you out into the world. And if you find your way home to us like a homing pigeon, and if you fight your way in the door, and if you fight your way into being a Maitreyan, even though we may tell you to go away, then you will become a Maitreyan. And if you don't, God bless you. Be about your business.
Wow.
Believe me, anybody who has God's new covenant in their heart, and God's supreme promise in their heart, and really treasures it, will do the things that are necessary to be done, not only to manifest it in their own life, but also to become part of this holy Sangha, this holy community, this religion, this way of life. They are the only ones worthy of having among you. You're worthy because you've been here for 26 years, 30 years, 34 years. But it is also incumbent upon you to make yourself worthy of that honor. You don't just get honor because you happen to be sitting in the same chair for 30 years. You have to earn that honor. Now, how do you earn that honor in this new paradigm? You go out and offer Just offer with an open hand. Not like this, but with an open hand. Remember, open hand? Put it here. There it is. Here's the small Book of Destiny. This is a replica of the metal Book of Destiny that is in the Smithsonian Institute in the American History Rare Books collection. You can go look it up if you want. This is a replica. It's a paper replica. So you have freedom. You put the Book of Destiny here, and I say, here is your new destiny. Do you want it? Most people are going to say no. Most people are going to say you're a nut. Most people are going to say boo on you. But there's somebody out there that's going to say yeah. And out of those who say yeah, there's 1%. You talk about the 1%ers. They're not the people who are building tents and crapping all over the ground of the park in front of the White House. You're the 1%ers. There's 1% of the human population that will say, I'm fighting my way in. I'm fighting my way in. I don't care if you got the door barred. I'm going to find a way to get in. Now, the way they used to do it in the old days is that the student that wanted to be, the person who wanted to be a student of the master would sit out in the dusty road in the rain and the dirt and the mud in front of the ashram until finally some of the brothers would come out and take him in and clean him up and present him to the guru. Then the guru would test him. Only after that would the guru test him. So if you want to come and be part of this, you're going to be tested every step of the way. You're going to be tested when you put this in your drawer. You're going to be tested when you bring it down. You're going to be tested when you come in here. Don't come here and say, "Oh, what are you people doing looking at me like you're evaluating me?" We are evaluating you. And if you get through, you'll be one of us. And if you don't, you'll just be another person out there wandering in the wilderness. But at least you will have God's new covenant and supreme promise in your heart. Maybe someday you'll come to your senses and want to fulfill it. So this is our paradigm shift. It changes everything. It's what they call a game changer. And this is what I want you to do. So if you're watching this and you have holy initiation, even if you've rejected us, even if you've said, "Oh, he's a phony," and blah, 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 even if you went through deprogramming like some of the people did, God knows why. And the deprogrammers did more damage than anything that they ever found here did. If you're one of those and you have this holy initiation, get out there and start giving it to other people. It's like scattering the seeds in the wind. Some will fall on the concrete, they won't grow. Some will fall on the lousy ground, they won't grow. Some will fall on rocks and they won't grow. Some will fall on good ground and they'll take root and they'll sprout and they'll grow. But unless you scatter the seeds far and wide, you'll never find the ones that grow. So this is the message of the day. This is, as a member of our holy community who's a very fine Marine said last night, well, God's the commander through you, so I've got the commander's intent. You now have the commander's intent, and I'm the commander. So go about your affairs and do this. And we'll see. Once we cast our bread upon the waters, we'll see what returns to us. Well, thank you for joining us in this Joy Day sanctuary meeting. I hope you found it enlightening. Even though I'm one of those low intellect conservatives, I hope I've done something to open your eyes and enlighten your mind. You might be one of us, but don't expect to waltz in here and sit down and go, "You got to accept me like I am." Well, we will accept you as you are if you are as we want to accept you. If you're not, we may ask you to take a hike, or a bicycle ride, or a journey. Go out in the world, learn some things, and then come back. It'll be done with respect because we respect the divine Spirit of God within all souls. Even when we don't like what they do. So if you've heard this, if it's touched you, if you think that you may be one of us, get yourself on down here. Let's find out. At least you'll go away with God's new covenant and supreme promise in your heart. Om Soham Tattvamasi. Father, we are that which you are. Jai Bhagavanji, victory to that beloved universal I am, that I am, which you are.
Jai Bhagavan.
Jai Bhagavan.